Hello artists, and welcome back to Art with Wilkins. Today we are going to be creating a water lily bridge artwork inspired by the work of Claude Monet. We are going to be adding a frog friend. I recommend option 1 for 1st and 2nd grade, a collaged frog, or option 2 for 3rd, 4th, or 5th grade, which is a drawn frog that's included from the very beginning. I am going to be showing you both of these. But first, who was Claude Monet? What is Impressionism? Claude Monet was a French Impressionist painter who lived in Giverny, France. He was most famous for his paintings of water lilies from his own garden at his home. He painted many scenes of his garden pond filled with water lilies. He was an Impressionist, meaning he loved to paint outside, trying to capture light, movement, and a moment in time. He now has art hanging in museums around the world, his most famous being his water lily paintings. A Lego set was released in 2026 of this painting of water lilies under a bridge. So today we're going to be creating a water lily artwork of our own, and we are going to be including a frog. I'm going to show you option 1 first, water lily pond with a collaged frog, recommended for grades 1st or 2nd. To begin, you are going to be creating the background, the bridge, the bushes, and the water lilies. And for part 1, we are going to need a 9x12 piece of paper and oil pastels. Make sure you use a sturdy mixed media paper. We are going to begin like we should always begin, by using a pencil to write our name on the back of our paper. You may flip your paper over, make sure it is still turned in a vertical position. Grab a blue pastel, and we're going to draw a horizon line down the middle of our paper. So right across the middle. I think I went to the middle and then up a little bit. I want to have room down below for lilies and above for the bridge and the bushes. So now I'm going to pick a color for my bridge. I'm doing dark blue, and I'm going to draw a rainbow line, and then another rainbow line above it, leaving a space between them. I like to make the bottom one a little bit thicker, so the floor of my bridge is nice and strong. So we've drawn a straight line and 2 rainbow lines above it. Now we're going to draw some vertical lines to make the bars of the bridge. I had room for 8. We don't want too many lines. So go ahead and get your bridge and your horizon line drawn and finished. And then we're going to grab a green oil pastel. We're going to draw some bumpy lines for bushes. I'm doing 2 big bushes that go off the page on each corner there. And I'm adding some little marks to show that the bushes have texture. And that completes the top. Now down below, we're going to draw some water lilies. This is my favorite way to draw water lilies. It's like an oval that is not quite completed. There's a little gap at the top. So I'm going to draw several of those. If you would like to practice those before you do this, you could, but they're not very hard to draw. It's kind of like C's that are sideways. And you might even do some tiny ones in the back that are complete ovals. So they are smaller and smaller in the distance, because when you look at something, it gets smaller and smaller as it gets farther away from you. So I'm drawing some small ones back there too. You can go ahead and color in those small ones. I'm going to grab another shade of green oil pastel, and I'm going to continue adding water lilies and water lily details. Get these colored in just a little bit. And let me show you why we left that gap in the top. We're going to pick a new color that we would like our water lily flowers to be. I'm going with pink. So I'm going to take the pink and I'm going to draw my flowers. I'm going to draw them right where that gap is. If you forgot to leave a gap, that's okay. You can just put your flowers over your lily pads or right on top there. I'm starting by drawing the letter U shape. So a curved line there to look like a letter U on all of these lily pads. Remember, they get smaller as they get closer to the top of your paper. So draw the letter U's on all of the lily pads that I want to have water lily flowers. And now I'm going to draw the petals by adding kind of some zigzag lines in there, and I can color them in pink. So there I go, adding some petals. Kind of a zigzag line on the top there. You could do a bumpy line. Lots of different ways you can make these look like water lily flowers. I'm going to go ahead and add in a few more lilies to fill up the space here. Some lily pads, color in those lilies with different shades of green. And that looks pretty good to me. I think I'm done with the oil pastel and ready for part 2, which is adding color. For option 1, I'm going to show you how to use bleeding tissue paper to add color. For this, you will need bleeding tissue paper, water, and a stiff brush. Another option is liquid watercolor, and I show that technique after this one, so skip ahead if that's what you would like to do. So for this one, I recommend having a messy mat under your paper. I also recommend pre-cut squares of bleeding tissue paper in shades of blue, green, and purple. You will need a stiff brush and a tray of water. So I always begin by making my paper damp. So I take my brush and I gently swash water all over the top area of my paper first. We're going to start with the top area of our paper, and then we're going to go down to the bottom. So I'm making my paper damp. I'm applying my tissue paper. It's really important that you put tissue paper beside of tissue paper and not right on top of other tissue papers. Kind of like a patchwork quilt. It's okay if they overlap a little bit, but we don't want to just stack them all on top of each other. We're trying to cover the white space. After you have stuck them to your wet paper, it's also really important that you take your brush and you wet them really good and apply water so that they are nice and shiny looking. And they are all very wet. If they are not very wet, then the cool part will not happen. So make sure your paper is wet, your tissue papers go on, and then you put more water on top. Above the bridge, we are only using shades of green. So you should only be using green tissue paper above the water lilies on top of your bridge and bushes. You can pause this video so that you can catch up, and when you're ready, we're going to move on to the next part, which is doing the water. We're going to use the same technique, so we're going to make our paper damp by brushing water gently over our water lilies. Then we're going to apply squares of blue and maybe purple tissue papers to our paper. So wet your paper, apply your squares to look like a patchwork quilt. We want the edges just to overlap a little bit, but we don't want them stacked on top of each other. And then we're going to put more water on top because it's important that they're really wet and shiny. I'm going to put blues and a couple of purples all over, covering all of the white spots that I see. And that looks pretty good. We don't want any tissue papers that are flying around or acting like they might fall off of our paper. If you have any sticking up or looking dry, you need to apply water to them before you take them to the drying rack. I'm now going to take this to the drying rack or wherever you put your art to dry. And when it is totally dry, we are going to take off these tissue papers and it's going to be a really cool reveal. That's it for today. Fast forward to next class. Your paper is all nice and dry. The pieces may be falling off. This is a good sign. We're going to take a squeegee, or maybe you're peeling these off by hand. My favorite way to do this is with a squeegee. And you're going to peel off all of these papers. Mine are not quite totally dry, but they come off really nice and easy if they are totally dry. So remove all of those tissue papers however you would like to, and we are left with this beautiful, beautiful background that looks kind of watercolory and just lovely. Another option to create this watercolor look is with watercolor instead of bleeding tissue. If that's how you would like to do it, you will take that drawing that you made in part 1 and you will take your liquid watercolors or your regular watercolors and you will just paint this however your heart desires. I always like to get my paper a little damp first so the colors can flow a little better. And I'm going to paint these bushes all green. Maybe throw some yellow in there, because yellow and green will mix to make new and different shades and tints of yellow and green. You also have a little more control with watercolor. You could paint the sky if you would like. You can maybe paint it with a sunset, or you can paint it blue. I'm painting my water blue. Since we used oil pastel on our water lilies and we pushed down nice and hard, this watercolor should just hop right over the water lilies. And I think that one turned out really nice too. So there's two good options for painting and adding color to these water lily bridge drawings. Now you may be done with this project, or you could add a frog. So here's optional part 3, adding a frog. For this one, you are going to need scissors, glue, the frog template that I have created, and then markers and oil pastels or crayons. So here I have my background and a frog template. My frog template is printed on green paper. Yours may not be. It may be on white paper. It may be on paper that you painted. Whatever your situation, these are the shapes we're going to need to cut out to create our frog. So we're going to begin by carefully cutting out these shapes. I'm going to place them on my paper to show you kind of how the frog is built, but you can pause this video at any time so that you can catch up and cut your own shapes. Alright, so there's the frog. I'm going to set these parts aside and let's glue this all on the paper together. So I'm using a glue stick. I'm applying glue to the back of this green piece. This is kind of like the frog's body. I'm lining it up at the bottom of my paper and I'm massaging it into place. Then we have like his little frog knees sticking up there. So one frog knee on the right, one frog knee on the left, applying some glue, massaging them into place. And then I'm going to grab that oval, which is his frog head, and I'm applying my glue stick to the back. And I'm going to massage it into place. And then I have like those two bumps that are going to be where his eyes go. Right there. So I'm going to kind of figure out where I want them. Apply glue. And massage those into place as well. Now we have our frog, but he needs a face. He needs facial expression. I have this sheet that I created with frog expressions. Kind of pick one that you're going for or come up with your own. I kind of like this guy with his sleepy eyes and his tongue hanging out over here on the left. So I might go with that idea. I'm going to use a white oil pastel and a black Sharpie. You can use whatever you have handy. I'm actually going to grab a pencil first and sketch out how I want this eye to go before I start coloring it in. So I want him to have those kind of sleepy eyes, so I'm drawing a slightly curved line with a little of the eye showing underneath. Like that. So now I know what needs to be white, and I'm going to color that in white with the oil pastel. And then I'm going to grab my Sharpie and I'm going to draw some outlines. You could also use the black crayon for this, or a black oil pastel. Add the outlines of the lids and the eyes there. I want him to have that big goofy smile with his tongue hanging out. I'm going to make the tongue pink with pink oil pastel. And this frog looks pretty good to me. You can be as creative as you want with these frogs and give them some really serious personality. So that one is all done. And that's how you could add a frog to this project if you cared for that. I'm going to add a couple more detail lines with my Sharpie down here. And that is how to add a frog to your water lily garden. I'm going to show you one last thing. This is for more advanced artists. It's another way to create the water lily garden with a frog. I recommend these steps and this process for 3rd or 4th grade students. Materials needed are 9x12 mixed media paper, pencil, Sharpie, oil pastels, and watercolor. We're going to begin kind of the same way with our paper turned tallways and writing our name on it. Flip it over, make sure it's still in a portrait mode, up and down. I'm darkening the value of my screen a little bit so you can see my pencil drawings. I'm following the steps in my How to Draw a Frog sheet here. 2 rainbow lines for knees, 1 big rainbow line for the body. Drawing really light. I'm actually pushing down really hard so y'all can see, but you should be drawing really light until you get this frog looking the way you like him to look. An oval for the head. Add 2 little rainbow lines up top for the eyes, and then 2 straight lines right there kind of to show his front legs. You can customize his expression to be however you would like. And when you are happy with your frog, you are going to outline with Sharpie. Outline all the details with Sharpie, and then erase all of the stray pencil lines with an eraser. Now that our frog is drawn, we are going to begin working on the background the same way I did with the other version, which is drawing with oil pastel. So we're going to draw a horizon line that hops behind our frog, hops over our frog, and I drew that a little above the middle. And then we're going to do a rainbow line to create the bottom of the bridge. I make that rainbow line a little bit thicker to be the floor of the bridge, and then another rainbow line over that one. That's going to be the top of the bridge. And then we're going to draw some vertical lines that are equally spaced to be the bars of the bridge. Once your bridge and horizon line are looking good, we're going to grab a green oil pastel and we're going to draw some bumpy lines to represent bushes and foliage in the background there. I'm going to add some texture to that by making little marks with my oil pastel. Now I'm ready to continue using that green to draw some lily pads. Lily pads can be ovals or circles, but from the angle we're viewing, I think they would be ovals. I do some small filled in ones way back in the distance there under the bridge, and some bigger ones that are close to you. And then we're going to grab a color that we would like to use for our flower, and we're going to draw the flowers on top of the lily pads. These water lily flowers are in bloom. I'm using pink, and I'm making kind of scribbly flowers on top of the lily pads there. Add some tiny ones in the background because things are smaller when they get farther away from us. And I'm going to go ahead and color these in with a different shade of green. And I might add in a few more small ones in that same shade. That looks good. The last thing we need to do is paint it. So I'm using liquid watercolors, but you can use whatever you have handy. I'm going to paint my green things first, which would be my frog and my foliage in the background. So I got my frog painted. I'm going to throw in a little yellow. Yellow is good to blend with green. Blue is also nice to blend with green. To give you some variety there, I'm all done with my greens. I'm going to paint my sky with sunset vibes, so I'm using orange and yellow. Warm colors are going to contrast nicely against all these cool colors. And now I'm going to paint my water all blue. It hops right over the oil pastel. I'm going to throw some purple in there as well. And now I'm going to use my Sharpie to add some details to my frog. I probably should have done this before painting in hindsight, but I'm also using the oil pastel to do some dots and textures, some little bumps on top of my frog there as well. And that looks pretty good. Thanks for creating Monet water lilies and frogs with me. I hope you had a great time. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.